Watch as local guide Jose casually swims next to a 15-foot crocodile in the murky waters of Costa Rica's Tarcoles River. His hand gently rests on the reptile's scaly back while tourists gasp from the safety of the bridge above. Yet in this same country where people swim with apex predators, you won't find a single military base or army patrol. Costa Rica completely abolished its military 75 years ago, choosing to invest in education and happiness instead of weapons. Welcome to a nation that defies everything you thought you knew about safety and security. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Meet Carlos, a third-generation crocodile guide who spent his entire life along the banks of the Tarcoles River. With measured steps, he approaches a massive 15-foot American crocodile basking in the morning sun. The ancient reptile, weighing over 1,200 pounds, barely acknowledges his presence as Carlos moves within touching distance. The Tarcoles River holds a remarkable secret. It has the highest density of large crocodiles anywhere in the world, with an estimated 25 of these prehistoric giants per square kilometer. Local fishermen and guides navigate these waters daily, sharing the space with over 2,000 American crocodiles. But instead of fear, they've developed an extraordinary understanding with these apex predators. Carlos demonstrates the techniques passed down through generations of river guides. He maintains constant eye contact with the crocodile while moving slowly and deliberately. His body language communicates respect rather than threat. The guides have learned to read subtle changes in the crocodile's behavior. A slight tail movement, a shift in eye position, or a change in breathing pattern can signal the reptile's mood and intentions. The relationship between Tarcoles residents and their scaly neighbors runs deep. Local families have given names to many of the regular crocodiles, like Osama, a particularly large male who's lived in the river for over 60 years. Children grow up learning the creature's territories and behaviors, treating them as permanent residents rather than threats. This unusual coexistence has created an increasingly popular tourist attraction. Visitors flock to the famous Crocodile Bridge to watch guides like Carlos interact with these powerful predators. But what truly amazes tourists isn't just the size of the crocodiles, it's watching local guides swim alongside them, seemingly defying natural laws of survival. The secret lies in decades of observation and respect. Guides know exactly when it's safe to enter the water, based on the crocodile's feeding patterns, temperature, and breeding seasons. They understand how to position themselves to avoid triggering predatory responses and recognize individual crocodiles' personalities and temperaments, as Carlos demonstrates by sliding into the water next to a massive female crocodile. There's an almost supernatural calm between human and reptile. His hand rests gently on her armored back as they glide through the muddy water together. It's a scene that captures the essence of Costa Rica, a place where deadly predators and humans have found an unexpected harmony. When Costa Rica's neighbors were building armies and stockpiling weapons, this tiny nation chose a radical path, trading tanks for textbooks and military bases for schools. In 1948, President Jose Figueres Ferrer made an unprecedented announcement. Costa Rica would completely dismantle its military, declaring that an army of teachers would better serve the nation than an army of soldiers. At the time, neighboring countries viewed this decision with a mixture of disbelief and concern. How could a nation survive without armed forces to protect its borders and maintain internal security? While Nicaragua and Honduras continued pouring resources into their military budgets, Costa Rica redirected its defense spending into classrooms, healthcare facilities, and environmental conservation. The transformation was remarkable. Former military bases became schools, bringing education to communities that had never had access to proper classrooms. Remote villages that once hosted army outposts saw their first libraries and computer labs. The money that would have bought tanks and missiles instead funded teacher training programs and educational materials. Today, the contrast between Costa Rica and its militarized neighbors tells a compelling story. While Honduras and Nicaragua allocate massive portions of their national budgets to maintain standing armies, Costa Rica invests that same money in its people. The result, Costa Rica boasts the highest literacy rate in Central America, with educational opportunities reaching even the most isolated communities. This commitment to education over armament has created an unexpected economic advantage. International companies, attracted by the highly educated workforce and peaceful stability, have invested heavily in Costa Rica. The country's reputation as a nation that chooses books over bullets has made it a preferred destination for sustainable development projects and ecotourism ventures. In rural areas, the impact is particularly visible. Communities that once struggled with limited resources now have modern schools equipped with technology labs and environmental education programs. Children who might have grown up to be soldiers instead become teachers, scientists, and conservation experts. This educational foundation has created a population that deeply understands and values their natural environment. The absence of military infrastructure has had another surprising effect. It's allowed nature to flourish undisturbed. Areas that might have become training grounds or bases have remained pristine wilderness. The country's focus on education has cultivated generations of Costa Ricans who see themselves as guardians of their natural heritage, leading to one of the most successful conservation programs in the Americas. In a world obsessed with mapping every inch of territory, Costa Rica holds an astonishing secret: regions so wild and unexplored that they occupy just 0.03% of Earth's surface, yet contain 5% of all known life forms. What mysteries still hide in these untamed frontiers? Satellite imagery reveals vast stretches of pristine jungle canopy, particularly in the remote corners of the Osa Peninsula and the Talamanca Mountains. These areas remain largely unexplored due to their challenging terrain. Dense vegetation, steep slopes, and seasonal flooding create natural barriers that have kept these regions isolated from human development. The absence of military installations and training grounds has allowed these wilderness areas to remain genuinely undisturbed. While other nations clear forests for bases and testing ranges, Costa Rica has preserved over 25% of its territory as protected areas. These sanctuaries have become living laboratories where nature continues its ancient rhythms undisturbed by human activity. This commitment to preservation has led to an extraordinary recovery. Areas that faced severe deforestation in the 1980s have transformed into lush forests, with tree cover now extending across more than half the country. The jungle's regeneration has created countless microhabitats, each potentially harboring undiscovered species. Within these protected zones, researchers regularly encounter new forms of life. The combination of varied elevations, multiple climate zones, and undisturbed ecosystems has created perfect conditions for biodiversity to flourish. From tiny tree frogs to previously unknown orchid species, each expedition into Costa Rica's remote areas holds the potential for scientific discovery. The country's peaceful approach to conservation has attracted researchers and naturalists from around the world. Without military restrictions or security concerns limiting access to wilderness areas, scientists can focus entirely on their work. This has made Costa Rica a global hub for tropical research, with international teams conducting long-term studies throughout its protected areas. These pristine jungles, combined with Costa Rica's dedication to environmental protection, have created an unparalleled destination for adventure tourism. Visitors can explore genuine wilderness areas where nature, not human activity, determines what they might encounter. Whether it's a rare quetzal sighting in the cloud forests or discovering a waterfall that few outsiders have ever seen, each journey into Costa Rica's remote regions offers the possibility of genuine exploration. While most nations believe that military might equal security, one Central American country proves that peace doesn't come from the barrel of a gun. Costa Rica's radical experiment in national defense has transformed it into one of the safest countries in the region, and the secret lies in what they removed rather than what they added. Tourists often describe an unusual sensation when crossing into Costa Rica, the notable absence of armed personnel and military checkpoints that are so common throughout Central America. Instead of uniformed soldiers, visitors are greeted by unarmed immigration officers and friendly locals. This striking difference sets the tone for a country that has redefined what security means. The results of this peaceful approach speak for themselves. Costa Rica consistently ranks as one of the safest countries in Central America, achieving this distinction not through force but through strong community bonds and social programs. Local neighborhoods have developed innovative security initiatives where residents work together to protect their communities, creating networks of support that extend to tourists and visitors. This community-based approach is particularly evident in remote areas where traditional policing would be challenging. Local guides and tourism operators coordinate closely with nearby villages to ensure visitor safety. They share information about trail conditions, weather patterns, and potential potential concerns, creating an informal but effective security network that spans even the most isolated regions. Rather than relying on shows of force, Costa Ricans emphasize practical safety measures. Tourism operators educate visitors about simple precautions, like securing valuables and being aware of their surroundings. This common-sense approach, combined with strong community oversight, has created an environment where both locals and tourists can explore freely without constant security concerns. The absence of military spending has allowed communities to invest in programs that address the root causes of crime: poverty, lack of education, and social isolation. Local organizations work together to provide youth activities, job training, and community events that strengthen social bonds. These initiatives have created neighborhoods where everyone knows each other and looks out for one another's well-being. Villages have developed unique protection methods that blend traditional practices with modern communication. WhatsApp groups connect local businesses, tour operators, and residents, allowing them to quickly share information and coordinate responses to any concerns. This grassroots approach to security has proven more effective than traditional military presence in preventing crime and ensuring visitor safety.